is
Oh, you're going to talk. Sorry.
yeah, good afternoon. This is Microsoft Office Hours. Today is February 6th. Today we will have Mike will be joining us, and we'll be talking about OneNote teams and inclusive classrooms. This is MS Office Hours. So take it away, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks. So this is me. I work on the education team as a product manager, and I'm going to be talking about a whole lot of stuff today that we've just announced in the last couple of weeks. And so I will stop after each section, and I'll be able to answer a few questions. I won't be able to answer infinite questions just because we're limited on time, and based on what I was told people want to know about, there's a ton here. So with that, let's just get going. And this is the agenda. So to start out, in terms of OneNote, what's new? Oh, this isn't new. I always like to show this in terms of OneNote education, save time, be more organized, collaborate better. I think this is a useful link to take a picture of or write down. And this deck will be public, so there'll be a link at the end where you can get this entire deck. But for the people who want to know, hey, what features are in what version of OneNote, the app, desktop, iPad, Mac, etc., great site there. And in addition, we've got a page that we call OneNote Ultimate that has all the sites, whether it's how to get support, what are the blogs about OneNote, things about what you can embed in OneNote, the differences of OneNote across platforms. So this is another really good site just to bookmark in general for your teachers or staff or whoever. In terms of the updates, I'm going to go through those. These were just announced recently. So the first one, and I think this is just about rolled out in the Windows 10 app, is the ability to create much richer math equations. So equation tools, you can see on the insert menu, there's this equation button right here. You can now create much richer equation tools similar to the desktop version of OneNote. And so for math and STEM teachers out there, we know this is a top request, and it's quite rich. We hope to be bringing this into the web version of OneNote later this year. We haven't an official announcement yet, but just know that that'll also be coming to the web version of OneNote later this year. The other math update is that we're bringing a lot of those same math assistant tools into OneNote for iPad. So things like you can see your ink and recognizing that into an equation, the solver, which has the step-by-step and helping solve that, and then also the immersive reader. Those are going to be rolling out in the OneNote iPad probably in early spring, and then the goal is to make this fully at parity with all the other math features in both the Windows 10 app as well as OneNote in the web. So more math features coming to iPad, especially better for younger students who might be using an iPad. And then, of course, we've got new stickers. Might be silly for some folks, but man, educators love stickers. So we've got Fruit Crew and Southeast Asian Animals. That's already rolled out across the different OneNote platforms. And so that's kind of a fun one. Now, this is one that I'm maybe most excited about for maybe everything I'm going to show today. I don't even know if Preston's seen this one. Preston, have you seen OneNote Live Captions yet? Well, I'll wait for him to unmute or not, but I'll bet you he hasn't even seen it. So what this is, so we fused together, people hopefully know what Microsoft Translator is, and what Translator allows you to do, it's a free app. It can be on your iPhone, your iPad, your Android, or the web. But the Translator app allows educators, professors, staff leaders, whoever, to generate a session that anyone can connect up to with their Translator app and receive captions and translations in real time. So what does that mean? That means if I'm an educator or leading a staff member at parent night, and I've got parents who speak 10 different languages, I can start up a translator session and generate a join code, and anyone with that translator app can enter the join code on their app and receive captions and translations in the language they choose. So I can broadcast out in 20 languages at the same time. That's really powerful for communication. But the thing that we are announcing, we just announced, and it's going to be going into beta soon, is what we call OneNote Live Captions. So I'm going to start this little video here. So imagine Professor Mike is using Translator here, and I generate a join code. So this is a little 5-digit code. Professor Mike writes this on the board for the class. Now, the students in the class, imagine you just booted OneNote with this Live Captions button. You enter the join code from Professor Mike. You choose your language. and hit join. So now little Preston's in class listening to Professor Mike, and little Preston sees these captions from Professor Mike right there in the pane. And little Preston can take notes in OneNote at the same time while Professor Mike is professing up front. Now here I hit pause. Oh, Professor Mike said this will be on the test. So little Preston paused the caption stream. He's like, oh, Professor Mike said something important. I'm going to go highlight that. Maybe I want to make the text bigger. And while Preston's doing that, Professor Mike is still up front, like continuing to talk. And Preston might get worried he got left behind, but no, if Preston hits play, everything Professor Mike was saying is still captured. Now, because we're in OneNote, I go over here on transcripts, we automatically save the entire transcript every day into OneNote. So everything Professor Mike is saying was captured with all the highlights.
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing.
And then in addition, I can go and choose a different language. So if I'm in class and I speak Japanese, I choose Japanese and hit join. Now Professor Mike is up front and the Japanese student gets everything in Japanese. And that's automatically saved all into OneNote into that transcript section. So that is OneNote Live Captions. That's going to be rolling out into private beta with our fleet customers, probably in late February, early March. And then we're going to roll it out to all of education, probably later in spring, maybe like May timeframe or right around there. So that one really can make note-taking more inclusive. We think it's really great for higher education. We think it's also good for K-12 in certain cases. And it's not just for people who don't speak the native language. Great for deaf and hard of hearing. It's great for dyslexia and dysgraphia and maybe sort of ADHD, information overload. So it allows you to capture those transcripts and save them. And yeah, so that is going to be rolling out to different clients, Windows 10, web, Mac, iPad. It'll come to desktop OneNote probably late 2020. And that's something that we're very excited about. The other thing I think this is the last OneNote update, but OneNote 2016 is not going away. So for those of you that have been watching Twitter and blogs, you'll know that we announced, you know what, we listened to customers. A lot of customers, including corporate customers, said, hey, we would really like to keep using OneNote Desktop. And so not only are we not going to kill desktop OneNote 2016, we're going to be putting new improvements into it in the future. So a little later this year, when you install Office Pro Plus in that desktop client, the OneNote 26 desktop will start to show up again. And then later in 2020, we'll start adding more improvements like Modern Sync, the Math Assistant, Dictation, Immersive Reader. So over the latter part of 2020 and into 2021, we'll start updating and improving the OneNote desktop client again. So it was a good case of Microsoft making a decision, had a lot of customers that said, hey, we really want to keep using desktop. And so we listened. So I believe that's it for OneNote. I'll do class notebook updates and then I'll pause for questions. So related to core OneNote, there's obviously class notebook. And for those of you that don't know, class notebook, hopefully most people on the phone know what it is. It's built into Teams now. It was originally standalone. It's the part where you have the collaboration space, the content library, and student notebooks. And so this has been around, gosh, almost 5 years now, and very popular, and we're still making improvements. So the biggest announcement that's probably it was the number one request by far was the ability to bulk delete a distributed page. So what that means is if a teacher distributed a page in OneNote and they're like, oh, wait a sec, I want to delete that. I didn't mean to do that. They can now go to the distribute page, click delete page, and do a bulk delete. So it's a really big time saver for educators. And that's going to be rolling out on the Windows 10 app, Mac, iPad, and OneNote Online. Actually, I think it's going to Insiders next week, and then it fully rolls out globally the week of February 17th and beyond. So very soon, that top request from teachers, huge time saver, that's going to be rolling out. We've also just launched, probably in the last month, the ability to distribute a section inside of a section group. So you can do that in the 2016, but you couldn't do it in Mac or iPad or Windows 10 or online. So now you can distribute nested section groups in your class notebook. So It's a small thing, but it's really nice, especially for those teachers who make more intricate and layered sort of structure in OneNote. Similar, you could do this in 2016, but you could not do it previously in Mac or Win 10 or iPad, is distributing from a master curriculum notebook, let's say, into directly your class notebook. So now you've got some content that lives in a master curriculum notebook, which is, we call it a non-EDU notebook, just a regular notebook. You will be able to distribute that into your class notebook. So again, big time saver, small feature, but teachers love that stuff. Another good time saver, now when you are in a class notebook and you click Manage Notebooks, it will take you directly into that class notebook. So it used to take you to a big list of all your class notebooks, which you had to load up and then find the one you wanted and go into it. So again, just a small thing, but it'll save teachers 30 seconds every time they use it and makes their life a little bit easier. And then for those that aren't aware, with Microsoft Teams, when you use OneNote inside of Teams, there's an example of you made a OneNote page as an assignment. Because Teams just launched Turnitin integration, which is awesome, Turnitin.com, the plagiarism checking tool and service. Any page in OneNote that was made as a Teams assignment, you can also use Turnitin integration. So that was probably another number 1 or 2 request of the last 4 years was have OneNote integrate with Turnitin.com. And so through Teams, now it does. And lastly, this isn't brand new, but a lot of people still don't know about it. When you want to create a new notebook inside of Teams, big request we had was, hey, I've got a bunch of existing content from last year or last semester. I'd love to import that content into my Teams notebook so I don't have to, copy a bunch of junk after I set it up. So as you can see here, set up class notebook, you choose from existing notebook, and you can pull in a bunch of existing content. So it's just a big time saver. So now, after you finish this process, your class notebook is fully populated and ready to go, and you don't have to go and drag, drop, copy a bunch of stuff from different places. So this shipped in fall, but I just wanted to make sure that people were aware. And with that, I will stop for questions before I go into the Teams updates. Questions, or maybe if they're in the chat, I'll stop.
I'm keeping track of the chat. I don't see anything right now, but Mike, that piece with OneNote and Translator. I mean, that in education, just what a fundamental thing that is in terms of really being able to reach out to our students. I mean, I'm clapping. You can't hear me, but what a cool thing. The feedback I've gotten to some folks that have seen some of the early rounds of that, just really transformational the way faculty and staff now can engage with students and even some of their peers as well. So really love that. I don't see any questions at the moment. One last call for questions so far. I'll take that as a no. All right, Mike, let's keep going.
Okay. So Teams updates, and I don't know, it's not clear if people have already seen some of these or not based on the previous discussions in the call, but I'll go over them. The big one that we rolled out in back to school that is not brand new, but I want to reiterate, was the redesign. So you can see here this much more simplified design. We worked with a lot of educators and got a lot of feedback on simplifying the design. So we abstract a lot of the more complex parts of Teams so you can really just focus on your classroom experience. So you can see here, we have a bunch of squares now. You can drag, drop, and reorder them. You can drill in, and you can see we hide all the other channels and stuff. We just keep it to that one class, keep it a lot more focused on that work, especially for younger students. We feel like that's really nice to not overwhelm them with too many things. The other thing, there's a bunch of new updates in Teams. The biggest one is probably the grades tab, which is now fully rolled out globally. So we've got a very lightweight grade book, and you can even drill in and get individual progress. You see your assignments here. You can quick glance of your different students and their scores, but you can drill in to get individual student progress. I mentioned Turnitin integration. So it works with Word and OneNote, and I'm not sure if PowerPoint is probably supported as well, but Turnitin, if you subscribe to Turnitin, that shows right up in your grades tab. And with your speed grader, you can just say, send this up to Turnitin. We have assignment history, which is really nice. You can see the progress and the iteration and the rich feedback that's happening, and really having a nice little assignment tracking history that's easy to drill into. And then another thing that we announced a while ago at ISTE, but now is fully rolled out, is the PowerSchool Grade Sync. So PowerSchool SIS, there's Grade Sync, and you can turn that right on, and that helps sync the grades directly from your assignment that you've made into your SIS gradebook. And we'll be adding more and more SISs in the near future on that one. And then the other one we have is custom assignment time. So you can make a custom due time for the assignment. Also, we also just announced this upper left is really cool, especially for larger school districts, early teacher access via school data sync. So what does that mean? That means that if I have 10,000 teams that I set up for my teachers in my big district, what would happen is as soon as SDS runs, the kids could jump into those too and start mucking around. So what this means is there's now an activation process. You can see this little blue activate button here. So now if I'm a teacher, no one can get into my little team until I click the activate button. So I could go in here, set everything up, get my assignments ready, get my class notebook ready, and then click activate. And then the students can come in and start to do things. The other one we have is cross-channel posting. That's been out for a while, so the ability to post across multiple channels. It's kind of a nice time saver. We finally rolled out weekly guardian and parent summary. So if you enable this as an IT admin, you can now automatically have a weekly summary sent out about the assignments. They go to the parent or the guardian, and we get that information from school data sync and the parent emails. And then assignments, we have IT settings. So with assignments, you can turn them on or off, and there's a parent guardian on-off switch. So there's actually an IT setting in Teams admin just for assignments. And like I said, here's a close-up of the grade book so you can get a sense of that. Here's the students, here's the different assignments, here's the points. And if I want to drill in, this is the individual progress. So Juan here, you can see what's missing, what's turned in, what's late. And it's a really nice way to get better handle on the assignments and the points and some of the grades in there. And that's fully rolled out globally now. This is one that's been around for a while, but more and more partners are enabling share to team. So imagine if you're in Kahoot or Quizlet or Buncee. It's really easy if you say share to teams, kind of like share to Google Classroom, if you've seen that. If I was in Kahoot and said share to teams, you could say create an assignment based on that Kahoot, or a Flipgrid in this case, or maybe just post a little card to the channel. So share that Quizlet link right into the channel in Teams. It's very easy for partners to integrate. It can be done in less than a day, just like 20 lines of code. And you'll see more and more and more partners integrating with Share to Teams in the coming year. And that's going to be a really big focus to allow more ed tech apps to integrate with Teams. This one is actually mostly rolled out now, I think, live captions in meetings. And if you go to the little ... menu, like even in today's meeting, I think most of you probably have it. You can turn on live captions. And what that means is in the meeting, as I'm talking or anyone else is talking, it'll get captioned just for you. So it's private to you. So if you turn on live captions, it'll start to caption. And later this year, we'll be having other languages. So very similar to Translator with OneNote, we're going to have more languages in Teams. So if I speak Spanish and everyone else is speaking English, I could turn on live captions and choose my language as Spanish, and it will just give me real-time captions in Spanish. So really powerful for inclusive technology.
Hey, Mike?
Yes.
Will Teams eventually be integrating with any anti-plagiarism software?
Well, Turnitin.com it does integrate with that right now.
Turn it in. Oh, Turnitin. I was thinking about a different app. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the only ones in the world, but I think they're one of the world's largest.
Yep, you are correct.
That we might add more in the future. I don't have any to share right now, though.
There was actually a follow-up question, Mike, to that too. So if somebody's using that, they need to still have a contract or whatever
An
with
account,
Turnitin.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not free.
Hopefully that answers your question, Marge. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. The other thing that we've announced as a beta, and it's called Class Insights. So this is really starting to give more analytics and insights to your class. So you'll be able to add a tab it won't be there by default, but if you want to go to the plus menu and add a tab, you'll be able to add insights. And we can start to show you things like average grade, on-time assignments, average return time, conversation activity. And you'll start to be able to get this sort of really interesting insights on the students in your class. And this is another example where you kind of see what's happening in the class. There's all students versus just Susan herself. And this is just our first step into the world of insights. But you can imagine more and more insights start getting surfaced here over time. And we're going to be listening to educators in schools, learning more and more about what makes sense, what doesn't. So this is kind of the start of our whole insights concept of analytics inside of the classroom. And this is just in, I believe it's in public preview right now, or it might be, I believe it's in public preview. And so this is something where we're just scratching the surface is what I'd say, to figure out what can we add in the world of insights. And with that, I will pause again and see if there are any questions on Teams. A lot going on there. All right.
Well, hey, Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
Just you had mentioned Power School, but there would be other SISs that will be obviously brought on board. Any way to determine whether the one we're using might be in line to be part of that?
Well, and I don't have the link with me. I'll try to get it to Preston and David. But we actually have a list of SISs that we're working with next. And we have a way to submit a form for the SIS that you're working with. The number one requirement we will have for SISs is that they support the One Roster standard, which is an open IMS global standard. And if they support One Roster, it's way easier for us to add them. Like, we don't plan on doing a bunch of custom integrations because SISs are all over the map on that. Our message is, hey, if you're on the One Roster open standard, it will be very easy for us to integrate your SIS.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
And I'll try to get the link to Preston and David. What is your SIS? I'm just curious.
It used to be called RenWeb. I think they're calling it Facts now, and I do know that they're One Roster integrated. So.
Oh yeah, well then that should make it easy. You'll start seeing more and more SISs come out in the next few months. Power School was the first big one. Now we're going to start speeding up the process. Other questions? Okay, well, let's just keep rolling. Inclusive classroom. So what does that mean? I'll go through a couple of here. This is in general with accessibility and Microsoft. This is how we think about it. I won't be covering all these categories today, but at the corporate level, beyond education, these are sort of the divisions of the 6 categories that we really think about for accessibility and inclusion. And so there's a lot here. There's a great sway here. This is public. Highly recommend you take a picture of that link and check it out. Because here's why. Most school districts I talk to have no idea about the built-in, free, non-stigmatizing tools that are already available and they already have. And so if inclusion and accessibility and equity is in your school vision or mission statement, and 99% of the schools I talk to, that is true, you probably want to care about this. I mean, it saves you time, it saves you money, and for the kids, some of this stuff can be life-changing. So highly recommend you take advantage of what you already have. When we talk about inclusive classroom, Microsoft Learning Tools. For those of you that thought Microsoft Learning Tools was only about the Immersive Reader, we actually want you to think about Learning Tools as reading, writing, math, and communication. And Immersive Reader is a key part of that, but there's many other tools we have now. And I'll be talking about some of the new updates for the reading, writing, math, and communication. And there's a bunch. So first off, for those of you that didn't already know, Immersive Reader is now available as an Azure Cognitive Service, which means any app in the world, any publisher, any service, any website can integrate the Immersive Reader themselves. So they don't need to be Word or OneNote or Teams. Immersive Reader is integrated everywhere. So what does that mean? Well, here's Canvas. Canvas has integrated the Immersive Reader. It's in beta right now. You can see that little Immersive Reader button right there in Canvas. All of these apps have integrated Immersive Reader. ThingLink, Buncee, Wakelet, Pear Deck just did, Wonderopolis, Follett, PowerSchool. They're all integrated or in the process of integrating the Immersive Reader. We just announced 6 more of these apps at the BETT conference. So Pear Deck, It's Learning, Vocabulary, KidBlog, and there's more and more coming. So it's really taking the Immersive Reader and making it available anywhere, iPad, Android, wherever you want. And if you're sitting there thinking, holy moly, you're like, my school uses McGraw-Hill textbooks and we use this one EdTech app, send them to this site. So we're asking school leaders out there and IT administrators, if you have an app you want Immersive Reader integrated into, then send them this link because it's very easy to set up. We've had EdTech apps set this up themselves within a day. And it's still in public preview. Everything's totally free right now. And we're hoping later this year to go to general availability. And we haven't announced the pricing model, but it's going to be extremely cheap and easy for these EdTech partners to do. And I'll just leave it at that. So again, Immersive Reader everywhere. And if you have an app or service you want it integrated into, including maybe your own school website, this deck has lots of information. The other thing is the new Edge Chromium. So Edge in Chrome just rolled out. And the new Chrome has Immersive Reader built in as well. And we're expanding the places where it can be used. I'm actually going to pull up a website as an example. It's the New York Times webpage. There's a little Immersive Reader button right here. And this is the upper right. And I click that. And I get a lot of those same Immersive Reader capabilities. Grammar tools, nouns, text preferences, choose different theme backgrounds and doing things like line focus. And this is just in the mainstream Edge browser, part of Chrome. But the other thing that we're bringing to the Edge browser is even the ability to just select some text on any web page and then right click and choose open an Immersive Reader, and it'll take you right into here. So this is really powerful in terms of that ability to start taking more and more web content and doing Immersive Reader with it. So this is that Edge version of Chrome, and you're going to see more and more improvements rolling out to this Edge, because now Chrome version of Edge, we can update that every 6 weeks. And so every 6 weeks, you're going to start seeing more and more coolness coming to that Immersive Reader in Chrome. So stay tuned is what I would say. We added a few more languages. We have parts of speech highlighting in Arabic. We have Maori translate and Gaelic in Irish, which is AKA Irish. We can now translate into those languages. So we're always adding more languages, more support. The other one that's really exciting is Office Lens. So you already know there's Office Lens, hopefully, where you take it. I'll show this again here. Office Lens, free on iOS. Take a picture of a book and then hit send it to Immersive Reader right there. We run optical character recognition. Now everything in that picture is now in Office Lens. So that photo, I can now update the syllables, parts of speech, spacing, change the background color. I can even do things like translate that picture into another language. I'm going to go back in here. I'll go to translate. We'll choose Spanish and picture dictionary. Now it's in Spanish. I click on a word, see the picture dictionary, and read it out loud in Spanish.
Camones. Y aunque su papá gritaba y gritaba, ella simplemente no sacaba la basura.
This is built in free to iOS, iPhones, and iPads. It's going to be coming to Android in probably 2 more months. But this is real universal access of content, right? Just take a picture of a book, and within seconds, you get the entire Immersive Reader built in. So for a lot of kids, that's quite powerful. Very, very powerful. And it's all free. Also, Immersive Reader is now built into Microsoft Forms. So formative assessment. I can't tell you how many educators have told me for accommodations, they have to read out the quiz questions out loud for the student. And now that student can take any part of that quiz or assessment and use the full Immersive Reader on it. And that's already rolled out globally. That's ready right now. In writing, the world of writing, Word for Web, we have this new thing called Ideas, which is like next generation natural language processing. So if you've seen things like clarity feedback, conciseness feedback, things like formality, all of those things are now rolling out into Word for the Web. So it's really inclusive writing, but helps all people with writing. And really, I mean, if you've seen Grammarly, which is an add-on, and it typically costs money, at least for the full version. A lot of those capabilities, we're starting to build things like that into the free version of Word using AI and making that available at scale to all schools. So look for more and more on this thing called Ideas that's in the process of rolling out in the Word for Web. And if you speak Danish, Dutch, Finnish, Norwegian, or Swedish, good news, you now have dictation across Office. So those are new speech-to-text languages that are rolling out in Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, and Outlook. And it's not only speech-to-text, we'll start rolling them out in PowerPoint translation and captions, as well as Microsoft Translator. So more and more languages getting added across Office, as well as Translator. And then for the math fans, I already showed you the OneNote math, but there's also Windows Graphing Calculator. So this summer, we're going to be updating the free calculator app that exists in Windows, and we're going to be adding a really cool graphing component. So sort of, TI grade graphing calculator is going to be free and built into Windows. And so that's something that later this summer, you'll get an update, and all of a sudden, you're going to have this really cool graphing calculator as part of it. Last but not least, PowerPoint Live. And hopefully you've seen or heard about this. This is a really big announcement at BETT. So you've probably seen PowerPoint captioning, right? Like that's right. I'll turn this on. So I'm talking now, and across the top, it's going to be translating into Spanish. And this is already built into PowerPoint. This is fully rolled out in the web and desktop and Mac. And this is pretty incredible as it is, right? Like, wow, I'm translating in real time as I'm talking, and it's rolling it out in English, or sorry, in Spanish. So taking that to the next level, PowerPoint Live, what if my audience has people who speak 10 different languages? Well, PowerPoint Live allows you to generate a join code, just like Translator. If you look at this, how oceans work, see that join code? If I'm the presenter, I put that join code up. Then all of you take out your phone or your laptop or your iPad, and you enter that join code. And for you, it looks like this. You get the slide I'm looking at. You get to choose your language. So Mike's talking, and on your device, it captions in Spanish, and you're watching the slides go by as Mike switches the slides. You can actually go back. So if you missed a slide, you can hit the back button and then kind of get caught back up to where Professor Mike is talking about this slide. But over 60 languages. So everyone can choose their own language, and they can follow along with the slides. In addition, when I'm done, all of you will get prompted with a little feedback form. So it automatically will generate a form and capture feedback on how I did, things like slide design, the speaker skill, content, interaction. So it's a really great way as a speaker to gather feedback without having to go set up a whole form and a survey monkey and do all that mumbo jumbo. It just sort of automatically goes to your audience that was connected via PowerPoint Live.
So Mike, real quick, if you can, that piece around PowerPoint Live presenter, again, I'm too many names in my head, but we actually use that feature for the mayor's State of the City address about 2 weeks ago in Syracuse, New York, and awesome people from the media getting the QR codes and stuff. And in that particular city, they have 30,000 people that have a language other than English is their first language. So we didn't roll it out completely to everybody that was remote, but everybody in the audience, and there was a couple hundred people in the audience were looking at it, and it was just seamless. It's shocking how seamless it actually is.
Yeah,
so thanks. I'll go back up.
And think of how inclusive that is, right? Now you're able to engage parents and audience members and students who maybe you couldn't before, and now you can. It's like that's a great example of technology being more inclusive.
Absolutely.
So this is actually now, it's, I think, starting this month, rolling out to PowerPoint in the web. So it's going to be web first. And what it'll do is it's going to be brought to desktop and Mac later in the year. But the live presentations is rolling out first into the web. And again, it's just really powerful, inclusive technology that allows you to engage. Again, on the parent side, I think the parents are some of the hardest to engage when you have non-native speakers, because oftentimes the parent doesn't speak the native language as well as maybe the child does. And it can be very hard as a school administrator or educator to engage those parents to the level that you'd like to. So yeah, here's oh, sorry, I went backwards there. And finally, no inclusive classroom and learning tools would be complete without a nice, beautiful periodic table of learning tools eye chart. I put this in there kind of for fun, but it really shows all the apps and capabilities across learning tools and related, and what products are in for Microsoft. And our goal is to make this chart even bigger, even smaller font, more columns, more rows. And so this will continue to grow. And this link here, it was for a presentation I did in Denmark, but the deck is exactly the same. So don't mind the OneNote Denmark BETT 2020. It's the same thing. So take a picture, use the QR code, tweet me out on Twitter, send me an email, ask me questions right now. But that's it in terms of the deck. I think the only other thing before I'm happy to answer last questions, and please, I'll leave this up for another couple seconds if people want to take pictures. We've got some brand new, incredible interactive training for inclusive reading, inclusive writing, inclusive math, and inclusive communication. And the best part is that it is, let me just go here. These are like 10 minutes. They're interactive and they're 10 minutes. It's not an hour training. It's not 5 hours. So if you have educators and staff who say, wow, I love all this inclusive technology, but I just don't have any time. Well, these are 10 minutes. Do it during your coffee break. And it can be life-changing for a lot of kids in your schools. It's worth the 10 minutes, trust me. And all of these are very well informed by a lot of the things that myself and other educators talk about. They're aimed towards educators. They are not like corporate boring, business training. They're actually using the right language and scenarios and how to use these in the classroom and really how to help kids. So in addition to this whole deck, this is in the deck, but really want to encourage for those of you, because the thing I hear most is, wow, Mike, I didn't know any of this crazy inclusive technology existed. And how do I train my teachers? And what do I do? And we created these guides expressly for the purpose of making it easy and consumable and lightweight for educators to get up and running on this stuff. And then I'll stop and I'm done.
Awesome, Mike. Hey, I mean, a ton of great information. We always appreciate, every minute that we get to spend with you on, National MS Office Hours. We'll, eventually post this up in streams. Let me stop the recording. And then all right.